Hi, this is Mike Pinella, and welcome to my rich media tutorial regarding Storybird. So before we get started, a few housekeeping items. First of all, my target with this tutorial is more the educational user, as I will be getting into some of the administrative functions, such as creating a class, reviewing work, and assigning grades. Secondly, relative to the software that I'm utilizing here, the screen capture is being done with Camtasia Studio. I also have done some static captures using Jing, which is a free service. The slides themselves have been created in PowerPoint. And finally, I am using the Storybird website. At this point, Storybird is only a website. It is not a mobile or tablet app, though that may certainly change in the future. So, topics that I'm going to cover with this tutorial is what is Storybird, how do you create an account, how do you create an assignment, and then I'll switch over to the student perspective and show you how you would complete an assignment, and jumping then back to the instructor side, how one can review assignments and make comments, even assign grades, and finally conclude with some lesson plan applications. So what exactly is Storybird? Well, defined most simply, it is an online service for art-inspired writing. But hopefully I will show that this is not just for teaching writing. You'll see that the assignments that I cover here are actually vocabulary assignments. So the first step, as you might suspect, is to create an account. I am not going to take you through this blow by blow because I assume you've created a few accounts before. But two things to point out. One is that you want to make sure that you sign up for a teacher account because that's what's going to allow you to create classes. Secondly, this is fundamentally a free service. There are some additional features that are associated with the premium tiers, and I will try to point those out along the way. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this link about creating classes. And you'll see it now I brought to some prompts. So now we're going to create my class. All right. So we add our class. Next step is we need some students. So add students. Now there's a couple ways you can add students, one of which involves the free way to do it, and then with the bulk account creation, which is a premium service. So I could just enter in and create some usernames, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the bulk account creation because I think this is kind of neat. I hit bulk account, and again I have two different options. One is if I already have a file that has all my students, I can just cut it and paste it in here and generate some accounts. I'm going to use this feature about auto-generating accounts, and for the time being, I'm just going to create 5 accounts, and you'll see what this does. So what it did was it just took my class LA Mike and created, you can see the numbers there. So now I'll just associate some students with it. All right, so now I have created 5 students, and they're in the system. Now, but the next thing is, I need to let these students know that they have usernames that have been created. So there's a couple ways to do that. I think this is pretty neat that I can print out little student ID cards. And you can see for the 5 people that I've created, it shows their temporary password. And then when they log in, they're going to have to create a new password. All right, so that's great. Got what I need for my students. I've created my students. And now I can move on to creating assignment. And how I do that is I'm going to move over here to the assignment tab. So let's go ahead and create an assignment. First thing we have to do is give the assignment a name. Call this vocab week 5 poem. I'm going to paste in a description that I already put together. We'll go back through that when I am doing the assignment. And then you can upload an image or a video that would help explain the assignment. In this case, I want to upload a poem that I did. I'm going to upload that, and while that's uploading, there's a couple other choices here. One has to do with what artwork. I'm going to let them use any artwork on the site, and then I have to associate a due date, which let's say we'll give them till November 8th. All right, there's my sample image. That's my poem that was done for the word illumination to help inspire. And okay, so now I'm going to save my assignment. And you can review it right here, and you can see it's my vocab week 5 poem. I can look at the instructions, and now we're in a position to actually do this assignment. So now I'm going to switch over to the student perspective so you can see what their experience is about. I've jumped to the login for one of my students, whose name is LA Mike 101. I'm signing in with their temporary password. And the first thing it's going to ask me for is a new password, so I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to check out my notifications. I can see that I've been assigned both a story and a poem. I'm going to start with the poem. Okay, so it brings me to the instructions on the assignment and my visual example. And now I can take a closer look at the instructions here. I need to create 3 poems that express the concept of each of the vocabulary words that were assigned to my subgroup. It wants me to look through the art to try to find a good trigger image and then use the words that they give me to try to create a poem. And then I have to publish the poem and make sure I tag it with the vocab word and associate it with this assignment. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do this assignment, and let's just assume that this student also is tasked with illumination as one of their words. So I come into the artwork area, and now there's 2 different ways that I can look for art. The first is just to peruse the art itself. Now you can see there is some art here that is rather juvenile, but there is also some fairly sophisticated art here as well. So I could do that way, but the other way is I could search through the tags. Now these are the tags that the artists or illustrators themselves have given to the artwork. And yes, while I could try to search illumination, it's probably not going to be tagged because you can see that the artwork tags here are simpler. So immediately I have to do some thinking. This is not just Google Images and let me type in illumination and see what comes up. I have to think about what would create illumination. And so I can think stars. I'm going to go with moon this time. All right. So I search moon, and now it brings up a variety of artwork that's associated with the moon. So again, I can sort through here. The raccoon thing looks pretty cool, but I'm going to keep looking. That's pretty neat on the top of the planet. And keep looking. Not crazy about any of that. Oh, okay, so now this looks cool to me. So I like this, the moon with this balloon, so I'm going to look at this a little closer. And I can see the full picture. They've entitled it Solitude, but I think this is appropriate for what I want to do. So the next thing is I'm going to click this button to use this art. And now it's going to ask me whether I want to create a story or a poem. I'm going to create a poem. It brought up my picture, and it's brought up some choice of words. So this is not, a kind of free-floating poetry exercise where I can write anything I want. I am limited by the constraints that the words that they provide me. Now, if none of the words here have anything to do with illumination, and I think I can't work with it, I could come down here and refresh the words, or I could even refresh the artwork. But what I'm going to do instead is pause and see if I can make a decent poem out of this. Okay, so I studied this for approximately 3 minutes, and I think I can work with some words here. So to make my poem, I just drag onto the page. So like this. Evening glimmer, the dancing dragon above. I like it. Now I can do some stylistic things where I could change the words. I kind of like that look where it kind of fades into. Yeah, not crazy about that. Yeah, that's interesting. And that kind of fades into the page. I like that because it goes with the black. So some cool stylistic things here. So I like this. So this is going to be my poem. So next I'm going to go to the menu and I'm going to publish this. And I'm going to associate this with the week 5 vocab poem. And I'm going to put in my vocab word and I'm going to save it. And there you go. I've created my poetry poem. Okay, so now I'm going to move on and show you the story creation feature. To do that, I am going to go back to my assignments, and I find that under class, and you can see that the vocab poem has been completed as signified by the green arrow. And now I'm going to click on the vocabulary story assignment. And this assignment basically is I have a list of 15 vocabulary words, and I need to use them in the context of a story. such as you can see here that this story was written about a boxing fanatic. So, and then I'm going to add an extra wrinkle to this, in that I'm going to do this as a tandem assignment with one of my classmates. So I click on here to do this assignment. And again, I could search through the art, but what I'm going to do this time is pick an artist who I've already followed. And I'm going to come over here to following, and you'll see that you always follow Storybird itself, but here's the artist that I like. And then you'll see this is some of her art. And what I'm saying here is that I want to use this art. Now, I don't necessarily want to use that picture, but I'm saying that I want to use her art in general, and I want to create a story with this. So I click in here, and it creates this environment where there is all kinds of artwork by this artist. And you can see it goes all the way over here and all the way over here. And I can drag images. So, for example, I like this one. And depending on where I drag it, it affects how much space I have to write my copy. So I like that. And I could start typing my story. So I've written the beginning of my story. And now what I can do is figure out, okay, where do I think I want to take this story from here? So again, I can look through the artwork and drag the canvas over this way. And oh, that looks kind of interesting. So I'm going to add a second page. And I'm going to drag this piece of artwork, and again, I can control which way it's going to go. And this looks interesting. So, but what I'm going to do is actually have somebody else continue this story. So I'm going to stop here for a moment. I'm going to create a cover. There's a variety of cover choices if you're in the paid tiers. Otherwise, I think you just get the iconic choices, which are still pretty cool. I'm going to give this a title. All right. And I'm not really into the witch's hat, so I'm going to change that. Again, I could change the colors, but I kind of like the dark purple. So I have the start to my story, so I'm going to go ahead and save this story. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite someone to collaborate on my story. So this time I'm going to go with Easy, and because he already knows what this assignment is, he knows it's coming. So I'll short note about it being his turn, and then I'll invite him. And so you can see that the story, and that it's signified that it's a tandem story, and it shows that I've invited my partner, and then from there he would go and finish the story, or we would go back and forth. So lastly, what I'm going to do now is go back to the teacher mode and show you how you can view your students' work and make comments and add little badges and such. So finally, I'm going to return and log back in as the instructor. When I do so, I am brought to my class page where I can see the various works that have been submitted or are in the process. Orange indicating work in progress, green indicating work that's been completed. Another good way to take a look at this is I'm going to look at it by assignment. I can see with the poem that I have 4 submissions. I'm going to click in this, and I can see the various work that has been submitted, all of these done against the same topic of illumination. And then I can click on one, and I can make comments. Love it. Simple, but perfect. And I can post these comments. And finally, I can even give a grade. So if I go back to my classes, and I'm going to go back to this poem, and I'm going to give this a letter grade and submit that as well. So when I come back to my dashboard and refresh that, you can see that I've now awarded a couple A's. Now there are other things that I could do as well. From here, I can awards. Now the rewards are all kind of childish, but I can add it to my library, which is a cool feature. So I can kind of create a best of type situation. And then there's a variety of ways that I can do sharing. So if I have a blog, I can put the best of work on the blog, save that and share that. And there's even options where, particularly with the stories, where you can actually save and print the stories either as a PDF, or you can actually publish it as a hardcover book. And some schools are actually using that as fundraising exercises. So in conclusion, what is Storybird? Well, they call themselves a new literacy tool for a new generation. And while I'm always wary of any marketing claim, I think in this case it's true, and that new generation are the visual technology adept learners of today. What can it be used for? Well, I think the uses for creative writing are obvious, but I think there's a lot of other applications. You can use it to teach grammar, critical reading, journaling. Wonderful, I think, to teach color and design. Good introduction for peer assessment, and hopefully, as my lesson has demonstrated, I think it's wonderful for teaching vocabulary. I think the thematic and visual associations that these exercises would create are going to cement those concepts in people's minds long after, say, flashcards or sample sentences have been forgotten. So that's my tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Thanks for watching.